Hello guys. Tonight, we drift back in time to the velvet-draped courts and candlelit chapels of 16th century Europe, a place where every whisper could carry across kingdoms and a single marriage could decide the fates of empires. Before we begin, I'd love for you to share where and when you're listening to this. What city are you in? What hour of the night has found you? Leave a comment below. I genuinely enjoy seeing the quiet corners of the world where this sleepy little history reaches you. Now take a moment to get cozy. Let the world slow down around you. Whether you're lying beneath the weight of a heavy duvet or curled up on a worn but comforting couch, know that this time belongs to you. Let the day unravel gently in your mind. Breathe in slowly and breathe out just as soft. Tonight, you're not in the 21st century. No, you find yourself stepping softly through the cobbled corridors of time. The air is damp with age, and the scent is that of wax, parchment, and faint rose oil. You're in Renaissance Europe. The year is 1518, and you, dear listener, are a silent observer, or perhaps a lowly attendant, preparing for a royal wedding the continent has awaited for years. The flickering torchlight casts long, golden shadows down a stone hallway. You move slowly, your soft leather shoes making no sound. Through a narrow arched window, you glimpse the dusk outside, violet and lavender clouds streaking across the horizon like strokes of an old master's brush. You're inside a French chateau, not a romantic one, not yet. It's austere, built for defence, with narrow passageways and watchful servants. But tonight, the old stones pulse with something different. Anticipation. The wedding is not until the end of the week, but already courtiers have begun to arrive from Florence, Madrid, Vienna and Brussels. There are Spanish cloaks lined with lynx fur and Italian doublets embroidered with golden thread. The smell of foreign perfumes clings to their silks. Diplomats pass through stone archways speaking Latin, French, and a strange nasal form of German. They speak of trade, of alliances, of the balance of power on the continent, but all in hushed tones, and you are here to see it unfold. Earlier that afternoon you had been assigned a simple but curious task, to prepare one of the upper guest rooms for a visiting noblewoman. You had just begun to unroll the tapestry when you found, tucked beneath a cedar chest, a folded page of paper. Smooth, thick, and written in a hand you recognise, the royal steward's. It was a list of ceremonial items to be laid out for the betrothal contract tomorrow. Not the wedding itself, just the betrothal. The formal signing of intent, the moment two great houses whisper, "Yes, our bloodlines shall merge." On the list, a ring carved with a Latin inscription, to be presented not by the groom, but his ambassador. A velvet cushion to hold the token of dowry, a gem-studded key, meant to symbolise access to a property still under negotiation. A relic, a splinter of the true cross, to be carried by a bishop. And finally, a goose-feather quill trimmed with gold to be used by the fathers of the bride and groom as they sign their names. Not the couple, not yet. This is not about love. This is about nations. You fold the list and tuck it into your coat. Your heart is quiet, your body still, but your mind stirs like wind among the trees. Outside your window the first stars blink gently into being. The clouds have cleared and the gardens below are quiet. Musicians from Florence have arrived and are rehearsing somewhere distant. The pluck of a lute, the hush of a harp. You think about the bride. You've seen her once, 15, perhaps 16. Her hair was coiled into braids wrapped in garnets, her eyes distant, her steps measured as if she were dancing to a rhythm no one else could hear. They say she's been taught 6 languages and can recite Virgil from memory, but none of that matters. What matters is her bloodline. Her dowry, her ability to bear sons. Tonight she will eat a plain supper and pray with her confessor. Tomorrow she will be led to the Hall of Echoes where her fate will be sealed in ink and gesture. And the groom? He is not here. He's hundreds of miles away in Vienna, surrounded by maps and tutors. They say he has freckles and enjoys falconry, but none of that matters either. He has been told whom to love, and he will obey. As you prepare to sleep, curled in the warmth of a woolen blanket in the servants' quarters, you hear footsteps in the hallway. Slow and deliberate. A candle passes by your door, carried by someone important. They are preparing too. Because in the world of royalty, a wedding is not a moment. It is a theatre of weeks, of symbols, of whispered instructions and ritualized motions, a stage where crowns hang in the balance. And tomorrow, dear listener, is only the beginning. So close your eyes now. Let the stone walls of the 1500s hold you, gently. Drift off with the soft scent of lavender from the gardens, and the memory of gold-threaded garments brushing quietly past you in the dark. The morning air is cool and heavy with mist as the chateau awakens. You've been up since before dawn, summoned quietly by one of the royal attendants who pressed a folded piece of parchment into your hand before vanishing down the stone corridor. The message bore no signature, only instructions. Bring the silver basin. The hall must be readied, cloth of state to be hung before terce. You move briskly but without sound, descending the service stairs that spiral tightly beside the kitchens. You can smell hearth smoke already, and the tang of boiled wine, breakfast for the minor clergy and visiting notaries. You're not permitted to enter the kitchens, but your path brushes past the edge of it, and you glimpse the bustle inside. Steaming pots, half-dressed children of the servants darting between crates, and a monk seated at the hearth speaking Latin blessings over a covered basket. The heat is overwhelming, and you step out again into the shaded hallway just as the bell above the gatehouse begins to toll the hour. 3 bells. Time to move to the Hall of Echoes. The hall is a strange room, tall and narrow, with a vault so high it vanishes into shadows. The walls are panelled in dark walnut and hung with faded tapestries depicting the siege of a long-forgotten fortress. The only window is a round aperture near the top of the north wall, letting in a cold stream of light that falls precisely onto the centre of the room at this hour. This is not a coincidence. Every ceremonial chamber in the chateau is positioned by design. Every window, every stone calculated for symbolism. At the centre, a raised platform has been assembled overnight. Upon it, 2 high-backed chairs face one another with a long table between them. You can see that someone has already arranged the writing implements. 2 ink pots, quills cut at different angles, 1 French, 1 Spanish, and beside them, a gilded reliquary box that holds the contract itself. You notice a faint scent rising from it. Rose oil and myrrh. It has been blessed. Along the perimeter of the hall, servants move like phantoms, smoothing velvet over chairs and draping a length of golden fabric from a wooden beam above the platform. This is the cloth of state, representing royal presence. Even when the sovereign is not physically in the room, it is a declaration. The event about to take place is sovereign business, binding not just the individuals involved, but the crowns they carry. You are ordered to place the silver basin on a pedestal beside the table. Into it will be poured a mixture of holy water and salt, a symbolic purification. The bishop, you learn, will dip his fingers in it before touching the document to demonstrate that the proceedings are done in the presence of the divine. Even in diplomacy, the church has its hand. The first to arrive are the envoys. Tall, draped in thick cloaks despite the mildness of the day, they move in pairs like chess pieces being positioned. From their colours, you know who they are. Florence in green and crimson, Spain in gold and black, Burgundy in rich violet, and a handful of minor lords from the Swiss cantons with silver embroidery stiff on their sleeves. They speak quietly, if at all, and keep their gloves on. Then comes the French delegation, led by the king's brother, Charles. You've only seen him from a distance before, but now he moves right past you, his gloved hand gesturing dismissively toward a kneeling attendant who fumbles with a stool. He's pale, eyes slightly hooded, and his voice has a tremor in it. Not of fear, but of calculation. He's not here for ceremony, he's here to secure France's interests. A soft commotion stirs at the back of the room. The bride's father has arrived. The Duke of Alençon is a short, barrel-chested man with a trimmed beard and a quiet gait. Despite his lack of grandeur, he radiates authority. He does not wear a sword today, a gesture meant to convey peace. His daughter is not with him. She will remain in the upper chambers until the document is signed. Her presence is not required for this part. This is a negotiation disguised as a ritual. The bishop enters last, aged, stooped slightly from the years, and flanked by 2 young acolytes in white robes. He carries the relic himself, a golden cross embedded with gems that glint as he passes beneath the window's cold light. The hall stills at his presence, not out of awe, perhaps, but habit. The church's shadow is long, and even those who do not pray bend to its weight. They begin with blessings, read in Latin. The bishop speaks slowly, with the rhythm of someone who knows no one will interrupt him. A silence settles into the corners of the room. The birds outside have gone quiet. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Then comes the unveiling of the contract. Two scribes carefully remove the lid of the reliquary box and lift the parchment between them. It is not one sheet, but three, bound at the corner with silk thread. The central page is the main agreement, while the other two are letters of ratification from each crown. Seals dangle from braided cords, wax, warm to the touch, bearing the insignia of kings. The bishop steps forward and dips his fingers into the silver basin, traces a cross into the air, and begins to read the contract aloud. You catch only fragments, mentions of dowry sums, vast and strange, entire duchies pledged as security, rights of passage granted to foreign troops, inheritance protocols should one of the parties die childless. This is not a romantic arrangement. It is a treaty, an armistice wrapped in pearls and lace. When he finishes, the room is silent. Then, one by one, the fathers step forward. First the Duke, then the envoy standing for the absent groom's house. Each takes a quill and signs at the foot of the page. The bishop applies his seal. The scribes do the same. Each movement is slow, deliberate, as though even the ink carries weight enough to shift history. And just like that, it is done. No applause, no fanfare, only a murmured prayer and the soft rustle of the document being returned to its box. The betrothal is sealed. From this moment, the bride and groom are legally bound. To dissolve it would require papal dispensation, and even that would take years. In the eyes of the Church and the courts of Europe, they are now half married. The real wedding will come in days, but already the machinery of nations has begun to turn. You follow the attendants as they file out of the hall, your eyes catching briefly on the basin, where the holy water still glistens faintly in the silver bowl. You think of the bride again, seated somewhere above, combing her hair perhaps, unaware that her life has just narrowed into a single irreversible path. It is the day after the betrothal signing, and the chateau breathes with quiet urgency. Gone is the hush of ceremony. In its place the soft rustle of fabric, the murmur of dressmakers, the distant clang of a servant dropping a pot. Today you are summoned to the bridal chambers. You climb a wide staircase lined with carved balustrades, and pause near a landing that overlooks the chapel garden. Beyond the mullioned windows, lavender grows in uneven rows beside rosemary and rue. A nun in a coarse habit walks in slow circuits between the hedges, her fingers tracing a rosary. Her silence calms you. You are here to assist with the trousseau, the collection of garments, linens, jewels, and personal effects that the bride will carry into her new life. Not just her possessions, but a symbol of her wealth, her status, and her readiness to assume the duties of a royal wife. Inside the bride's apartments, the atmosphere is hushed, but not still. Women move quietly from table to table, arranging bolts of fabric, trimming threads, folding chemises in neat, fragrant piles. The room is large, with pale plastered walls and a fire already lit against the early morning chill. It smells of lavender water and pressed damask. At the centre of the room stands the bride herself. She's dressed simply for now, in a pale blue kirtle with white sleeves laced at the shoulders, her hair still unbraided. She does not speak much, but you can see the faint tension around her mouth. Her eyes, grey, sharp, move quickly, following the gestures of her maids as they open long cedar chests and draw out one item after another. You're handed a list, written in a soft, feminine hand, with a small red wax seal at the bottom. It details the contents of the trousseau. There are over 30 gowns, each for a different occasion. Travel gowns in heavier wools, court gowns in brocade, hunting attire, mourning blacks, even a gown meant for childbirth tucked into the final chest as a silent omen of what is expected of her. Each garment is not just sewn but constructed, layers upon layers of fabric, interlining and stiffened collars. Many have taken months to complete. The embroidery on a single overskirt might depict biblical scenes, stitched with gold and silver threads that glint faintly as they catch the light. You run your fingers along one edge and feel the delicate knots and tiny pearls, each sewn by hand, and then the jewels. A separate chest is brought in by two older women, and all conversation stills. The bride steps forward. This, she must inspect herself. The chest is opened slowly. Inside, wrapped in soft cloths, are the heirlooms passed down through generations of noblewomen. A collar of emeralds, so heavy it must be worn with reinforced stays, a ruby-studded girdle once worn by her grandmother on her wedding day, rings of sapphire and garnet, a delicate chain hung with a miniature gold crucifix. Each item is a statement. These are not trinkets. They are symbols of power, of bloodlines, of legacy. You help record the inventory as each piece is unwrapped and shown to the bride. She touches them briefly, nodding once, then gestures for her ladies to return them to their wrappings. She does not smile. She has been taught not to. Later that afternoon, the tailor arrives. He is Florentine, with quick hands and a pointed beard, and he bows deeply before addressing the bride. He has brought the sottana, the undergown, and the sopravveste or overgown that she will wear for the wedding itself. The colours have been chosen already, ivory and rose gold, symbolic of purity and nobility. It is to be a French cut, but with Italian embellishment, a diplomatic compromise, you understand. The fitting is conducted with precise ceremony. The bride stands still as a statue while layers are adjusted, seams examined and hems discussed. You see the quiet struggle beneath her composure, the enforced stillness, the weight of expectation. This gown is not for comfort, it is for display. Her body must carry the nation's grace, the court's dignity. She must be flawless. That evening the bride retires early. She's escorted to her private chapel by her governess and two silent sisters of a nearby abbey. A candlelit prayer will be said for her virtue, for her future, and, discreetly, for her fertility. A childless royal marriage, after all, is no marriage at all. You're left to help the maids fold the final pieces of the trousseau, packing them into chests lined with dried herbs to keep moths away. The garments feel heavy, even folded. You cannot help but imagine what it would be like to wear them. Not just their weight on the shoulders, but their meaning, the duty, the silence, the watchful eyes of a court that expects perfection in every thread. As the candles burn low and the room empties, you linger near the fire for a while longer. The last chest is sealed with wax and marked with the bride's initials in crimson ink. Symbol, again. Everything must be labelled, owned, controlled. You rise, at last, and leave the room. The corridor is quiet now. Your footsteps are soft against the rushes scattered along the floor. The air smells of ash, lavender, and thyme. You glance back, once through the doorway, at the carefully packed chests, at the ghost of a gown's hem just visible beneath the lid. She is ready, or at least they have made her so, and the wedding approaches. The days pass slowly, quietly, as if the chateau itself is holding its breath. You begin to notice small changes in the rhythm of things. More servants than you can count now move through the halls, many of them unfamiliar. They wear the liveries of distant kingdoms, Burgundy, Castile, the Holy Roman Empire. Some speak no French, some speak none at all. You've never seen the great hall so full. It's still early in the day, mid-morning perhaps, and already the air inside the west wing carries the perfume of foreign incense and warm, pressed velvet. Soft music curls through the stairwells, a slow, delicate tune plucked on viols and bowed on rebecs. Somewhere, faintly, bells ring from the village chapel across the fields. The sky is soft grey today, not stormy, just still, like silk hung in the clouds. The guest lists for a royal wedding are not decided lightly. To attend is to declare loyalty, recognition, or even opposition. Each noble, each dignitary, carries not just a name but a lineage, a political shadow, a trail of promises made and debts owed. As you pass through the outer courtyard, you see the rows of carriages, some simple, others ostentatiously gilded, their coats of arms painted boldly across the doors. Horses bearing ornate bardings snort and stomp against the paving stones. Pages scurry with trunks, and guards in mismatched armour exchange glances with suspicion and quiet curiosity. There are too many languages here now, too many rivalries held just beneath the surface. You're told that among the arriving guests are 2 cardinals from Rome, 3 dukes from the Italian city-states, a cousin of the King of Poland, and the Emperor's own sister, Archduchess Margaret, travelling with a retinue of more than 30 attendants. Some have come not because they wish to, but because not coming would be seen as an insult. Others are here to spy, to gather whispers, to report back to courts far away. One name, however, creates a special stir. The Queen Dowager of Navarre. She arrives in a subdued carriage but steps out with the quiet command of a woman long used to watching from the edges of thrones. She wears no crown today, but her hair is braided with black pearls, a sign of mourning, though no one is quite sure for whom. Rumours say she speaks 6 languages and can silence a room with a glance. She is the bride's godmother. Her presence here is both a gesture of protection and of judgment. You glimpse her just once, standing beneath the gallery arch, a single grey streak in her dark hair, a narrow fan clutched in one hand. She looks not at the people but at the banners overhead, the joined coats of arms now embroidered on long silk pennants, the bride's family lion, the groom's double-headed eagle. Their marriage is a bridge, but also a fuse. Everyone here knows it. Inside the great hall, preparations are ongoing. You've been assigned to help with seating arrangements, a task that seems simple, but is anything but. Placement matters. Too close to the altar, and it suggests favour. Too far, and it implies disgrace. There must be balance between countries, between religions, between old allies and recent enemies. One mistake, one misjudged cushion, could unravel months of diplomacy. You help carry in the oak chairs, each one carved with the initials of the house to whom it belongs. Some must be arranged in pairs, others alone, and still others hidden behind columns where observers can watch without being watched. The highest-ranking guests are not seated at the front as you might expect, but to the sides, where they can be seen more easily by the rest. Visibility is power. You hear one of the steward's assistants grumbling softly in Flemish about the Spanish delegation refusing to sit near the Neapolitans. An argument had broken out over whether precedence should go to a Duke of Blood or one of land. The steward himself has been pacing in circles for hours, muttering to himself and sending runners up and down the chateau with scraps of parchment and revised diagrams. Meanwhile, the kitchen courtyard buzzes with deliveries. Crates of dried fruits from Aragon, wheels of cheese sealed in wax, salted fish from the coast, and dozens of bottles of Rhenish wine stamped with imperial seals. Every item is accounted for, its origin documented, its recipient notified. Nothing arrives unannounced, everything has meaning. You help string garlands above the entrance to the hall, dried roses, sage, and tiny golden apples tied with twine. The scent is sweet and faintly bitter, like memory. Some of the older attendants hum as they work, old melodies, courtly tunes no one writes down anymore. In the late afternoon a storm passes briefly over the valley. Rain patters against the high windows, the soft percussion behind the music echoing through the upper galleries. You find yourself watching droplets race down the glass. The sky outside is silver and blue, washed clean, and then silence again. The guests are in their rooms now, or walking slowly through the gardens. Some pray, some drink, some linger at the edges of conversations, careful to say little. And the bride? She remains out of sight. Her preparations are not yet complete. She will be revealed only when the time is right, when every guest is seated, when every candle is lit, when every eye is ready to witness what centuries of tradition have shaped. As evening falls, you take a slow walk along the western corridor. The sky has cleared entirely, and the moon, pale and patient, rises above the orchard. In the distance you hear laughter, a lute, a soft voice humming a chanson older than the chateau itself. The guests have come, the stage is set, and tomorrow, the bride will walk to meet her future beneath tapestries and banners, while the world watches. Let your eyes grow heavy now. Let the flicker of imagined candlelight settle in your thoughts. You are part of it now, woven into the hushed and intricate ceremony of a royal wedding long ago. Sleep gently. You awaken before the sun. The silence is soft, absolute. Even the birds seem to wait. Somewhere deep within the chateau, bells will toll soon, but for now, the world is still wrapped in the hushed linen of early morning. You rise slowly from the servant's cot, its straw-stuffed mattress creaking gently under your weight. The air is cool and faintly damp. A pale mist curls in the window's edge like breath on glass. You wrap a wool shawl around your shoulders and step barefoot into the corridor, where the scent of waxed floors and rosemary hangs faintly in the air. Today is the wedding. You're not a noble, not a guest of honour. You are one of the quiet people, the invisible threads that hold the fabric of this grand day together. But that doesn't matter, because you are here, You're within the walls of history. Downstairs, in the eastern wing, the chapel is already being prepared. You pass by in silence, watching through the carved stone archways as candles are placed along every ledge, every windowsill, every beam, hundreds of them. Their flames flicker softly in the draughty air, casting long shadows that sway and shiver across the tapestries. The altar has been dressed in white damask, its edges fringed with gold. Behind it, a crucifix carved from dark cherrywood looms, solemn and unblinking. A monk, already kneeling in prayer, speaks Latin under his breath. You step aside as a line of altar boys passes, each holding a small vessel or cloth, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fatigue. Even they understand the weight of this day. Above you, in the bride's apartments, preparations have begun. You are summoned, quietly, by one of the older ladies, Madame Blanche, who has overseen 3 royal weddings and speaks in whispers that carry across whole rooms. You climb the steps again, this time slower. The stone is cold beneath your feet, and your heart, though calm, beats just a little faster. Inside the chamber, the atmosphere has shifted. The bride stands near the window, her back to the door, gazing out toward the orchard. Her hair, long and still loose, has been brushed to a mirror sheen, and hangs down her back like a river of silk. It will be braided soon, tightly, intricately, with strands of seed pearls and fine golden threads. She does not speak, she barely moves. Her women bustle softly around her, laying out the wedding garments piece by piece. It is like preparing armour. Each layer must be perfect, a linen shift first, soft and plain. Then the corset, stiffened with baleen and embroidered at the seams. It takes 3 hands to lace. You hold your breath as you help. Then the gown itself, the robe de mariée. Made from ivory silk woven in Lyon, it shimmers with every movement, though the colour is soft like milk tinged with candlelight. The sleeves are long and belled, lined with velvet. The bodice is stiff, square-necked, edged with rose gold thread that gleams as if lit from within. You help to fasten a heavy belt at her waist, from which hangs a key. Not a real key, but a symbolic one, to her new home, her new role, her new life. Over her shoulders, a mantle is placed, white ermine, a mark of royal status. A tiny gold clasp shaped like a lily secures it at the throat. You adjust it gently, smoothing the collar. Her eyes meet yours briefly. They are calm, but behind them, something unreadable. Not fear, not sadness exactly, just awareness. As if she sees all of it at once. The weight of her name, the hundreds of eyes that will look at her today, the invisible thread that will bind her to a man she has never touched. A maid brings forward the bridal veil, a fine net of Italian lace, edged with garnets. It is fastened to a crespin, a thin jewelled cap fitted tightly to the skull. You help adjust it until the folds fall evenly down her back, the light from the window catching on the tiny stone stitched into its weave. At last, the bride is ready. Or rather, the image of the bride is ready. The person is somewhere deep within the folds and gold and lace. She does not walk alone, she will be led. Down below, the chapel fills slowly with guests. The nobles arrive in procession, their cloaks sweeping the stones, their voices hushed. The musicians begin to play, soft chords from sackbuts and viols. The organist warms up a scale, the notes echoing like footsteps in a cathedral. You're permitted to watch from the narrow gallery above the nave. Hidden behind a screen of carved wood, you see everything. The flickering sea of candles, the altar gleaming in silence, and one by one the courtiers take their seats. The bride's family sits on the left side, faces you know, familiar coats of arms. The groom's delegation sits on the right. Foreign silks, colder expressions. They have travelled far, some more reluctantly than others. At the stroke of noon, the bishop arrives. Tall, robed in white and gold, he takes his place at the altar and opens the Book of Rites with hands that tremble ever so slightly. A pause. Then, a hush. The musicians begin the processional, and the bride enters. She moves slowly down the aisle, guided by 2 attendants. Her steps are measured, her face partially obscured by the veil, but every eye is on her. They watch not just her face, but what she carries, the grace of her bearing, the silence of her submission. This is not her moment, it is their moment. The houses, the thrones, the bloodlines. The groom is not here. The marriage will be completed in 2 parts. This ceremony, in person, and the consummation, later, witnessed and confirmed in Vienna, a proxy wedding, as was common in high diplomacy. Today, a stand-in, the groom's cousin, will take his place at the altar. The vows spoken today will bind them fully, but their bodies will not meet until weeks from now. Still it is sacred. Still it is final. The bishop begins to speak, voice clear, solemn, resonant against the cold stone walls. He recites the rites in Latin, blesses the union, names the witnesses, speaks of duty, of alliance, of God's hand in all things. The proxy steps forward, places a ring, thin, etched with ancient words, onto the bride's gloved hand, a gesture, a promise. She speaks her part, voice barely above a whisper, and with that, it is done. The bells ring out at last, thunderous and cold, not joyful, just absolute. You lean against the wooden screen of the gallery, your hands folded in your lap. Your breath moves slowly. The scent of burning wax, incense and rose water drifts upward. You watch as the bride is led back down the aisle, her veil trailing like a river of snow, and somewhere, across the mountains, her husband waits. Evening descends upon the chateau like a velvet curtain, soft and heavy. The sun dips behind the orchard, turning the sky to pale gold, then lavender, then deep indigo. The bells have fallen silent. The chapel is cold now, the candles extinguished. The vows, spoken, sealed and witnessed, echo only in memory. But the day is not over, because now comes the part everyone has waited for. The banquet. Not just a meal, a message, a performance, a demonstration of wealth, hospitality, power. You're summoned to the banquet hall just before dusk, the great doors still closed. The air outside them hums with anticipation. Servants in pressed linen hurry back and forth, carrying silverware wrapped in cloth, pitchers of mulled wine, and great bowls filled with marzipan fruits shaped like apples, pears, and tiny wild strawberries dusted with sugar. You step inside the hall just as the final preparations are completed, and for a moment you pause. It is breathtaking. The walls are hung with imported tapestries from Flanders, depicting scenes from classical mythology. Diana in the forest, Venus rising from the sea, Orpheus surrounded by animals. The flicker of candlelight dances across their surfaces, giving them life. Above, the beams have been strung with greenery, garlands of ivy, rosemary, and dried oranges tied with red ribbons. From them hang small glass lanterns, each one catching the light in 1,000 tiny reflections. The tables, oh, the tables, stretch end to end, long and low and covered with white linen embroidered with the crest of the bride's family. Silver dishes have been polished until they shine like water. Pewter goblets are lined in gold. Carved trenchers, each with its own painted design, wait at every seat. At the head of the room stands the high table, slightly raised, draped in red velvet with 6 chairs, one for the bride, one for the proxy groom, and the rest for the highest-ranking guests. Behind them, a canopy of cloth of gold stretches like a royal sky. Beneath it, everything they do will be watched, and everything matters. You help place the final decorations, candied violets in tiny glass bowls, cinnamon-studded pomanders to scent the air, and gilded cards marking each guest's place. The steward corrects you once, gently but firmly. The Archduchess does not sit beside the Neapolitan envoy. Always keep the bloodlines apart unless joined in marriage. You nod. It is a game of inches and symbols. A misplaced chair can be an insult remembered for decades. Outside, torches are being lit along the inner courtyard. The musicians begin to warm up again. Soft pipes, viols, and the high, sweet tone of a rebesse. A few of them are Italian, hired weeks in advance. They don't speak much French, but their fingers speak fluently in music. You're told to change. You must be in clean clothing before the banquet begins, so you slip away, wash your hands and face in cool water, and dress in your second-best tunic. The fabric still smells faintly of soap and sun. It's enough. No one will look at you, and soon the hall begins to fill. The nobles enter with quiet fanfare. Not trumpets, but presents, a rustle of silks, the gleam of fur-lined cloaks, the whisper of perfume as they pass. They greet one another with careful nods, measured bows, murmured words in French, Latin, Spanish. The bride enters last. She has changed now. Gone is the solemn bridal gown. She wears a new ensemble, a crimson surcoat embroidered with gold acorns and vines lined in ermine. Her hair has been braided again and pinned into an elaborate coil, crowned with a delicate coronet. She does not smile, but she walks steadily to her place beneath the canopy. The bishop offers a brief blessing. Then, with a nod from the steward, the feast begins. The first course is purely symbolic. Wafers of bread imprinted with the arms of both families, dipped in rose-scented honey, a ritual of union, shared sweetness. Even the proxy partakes. Then the procession of dishes begins. You stand near the edge of the hall, helping to coordinate the movements of the kitchen boys as they carry silver platters from the side doors. Each dish has been selected for meaning, not just taste. There is swan roasted in gold leaf, served with almonds and dates, a mark of elegance and eternity. Peacock with feathers reassembled to suggest immortality and the beauty of dominion. It is not meant to be eaten, merely admired. A fish pie shaped like a castle, with tiny sugar knights at its gates, a symbol of defence, of home, of fortitude. Custards flavoured with rosewater, in the colours of the bride's house, pale cream and faded pink. A roast boar's head, carried in with trumpets, its tusks painted silver, a symbol of courage and virility. The men laugh and toast to it. Between each course, there are entertainments. A troupe of actors performs a short masque. Gods arguing about love, ending in the marriage of Venus and Mars. There is laughter, applause, polite murmurs. A blindfolded harpist performs a love ballad said to be written by the groom's grandfather, and a small boy dressed as Cupid tiptoes through the room, tossing rose petals, then vanishes into the gallery. You watch as the bride eats very little. She lifts her goblet to her lips, sips sparingly. She listens. Watches. Smiles faintly when the Archduchess leans in to speak to her. It is not joy, but it is control. The proxy seated beside her is careful. He speaks when spoken to, drinks little, never removes his gloves. They are not a couple, but tonight they are a portrait. At the end of the evening, the final dish is brought out, a towering confection made of sugar, shaped like a castle with spinning sugar cranes circling its peak. It glows in the candlelight, impossibly delicate, a marvel of artistry. It is not eaten, it is admired, applauded, then slowly dismantled. As the guests begin to rise, moving toward the courtyard where torches and soft music await, you remain for a moment in the doorway, watching the bride stand alone beneath the canopy. Her eyes scan the hall one last time, and then she turns and disappears into the corridor beyond. The feast is over. The wedding is complete in the eyes of the court, but there is more yet to come. Tonight will bring traditions older than memory, private rituals, symbolic gestures meant not for the banquet but the bedroom. Close your eyes now, let the music fade into stillness, let the firelight fade behind your thoughts. You are safe within these old stone walls, wrapped in quiet observation, and tomorrow the ritual continues. The candles have burned low, the laughter in the courtyard has softened into murmurs. A few last chords from a harp float gently through the night air like threads of silk, then dissolve into silence. It is late now, but not too late for one final ritual. The bedding ceremony. In most weddings, it is private, quiet, hidden behind shutters and whispers. But when a royal house marries, especially when the union binds nations, it becomes something else entirely. A performance, a confirmation, a proof. You're not summoned for the ceremony itself. Few are. Only select nobles, chosen courtiers, and clergy participate in what is called witnessed bedding. But the entire chateau knows. Word spreads like smoke beneath the door. You see servants gathering near the corridors, lingering in corners, pretending to clean silver or sweep ashes. Listening, waiting. You do the same. The ceremony begins not in a bedroom, but in a chamber outside the bridal suite, a kind of holding room. There, the bride and the proxy groom sit side by side on a raised platform beneath a canopy of state, still dressed in their formal attire, though the bride's veil has been removed. Her face is still, calm, unreadable. A bishop steps forward with a prayer. His Latin is slow, deliberate. He speaks of unity, of divine sanction, of the joining of houses. He does not mention love, he does not need to. Then the women step forward. The bride's attendants, her mother, her governess, the Queen Dowager, each offers a blessing, in words, in symbols, in touch. One lays a branch of rosemary on the bride's lap, for remembrance. Another places a silver coin in her slipper, for prosperity. And then the Queen Dowager speaks last. Her voice is low, even, and slow. You cannot hear the words, but they carry weight. The room stills, the bride nods, then comes the undressing. It is not rushed, it is ceremonial, one layer at a time, each removed with care and reverence. The mantle first, then the belt, the overskirt, the stiff corset, until the bride is left in a linen shift, her shoulders bare beneath the candlelight. The proxy groom stands as well. He removes only his outer coat and gloves. No more is needed. The two are then led separately into the bridal chamber. You're not inside. You're just outside in the corridor along with a dozen others, waiting, listening. The room beyond is large but plain. A tall bed, high enough to require steps, is covered in white sheets embroidered with the royal crests. The sheets were blessed this morning by a priest. A bowl of rosewater rests nearby. 2 wax candles flicker on either side of the headboard. Their light is steady, unblinking. The bedding itself is symbolic. There will be no intimacy tonight. The proxy is not the groom, and the bride, though legally wed, is not yet a wife in the flesh. But still, they must lie side by side, beneath the same coverlet, so that the union can be witnessed, so that no one may say later that the marriage was not real. Inside the room, voices murmur low. The bedding cloth is lifted. Witnesses step forward. A notary records the moment in ink. The bishop offers a final blessing. Then the witnesses step back. The curtains are drawn around the bed, and the room falls quiet. After a few moments, the door opens again. The proxy steps out, nods to the gathered nobles, and is escorted away. The bride remains. This ritual, strange to our modern eyes, was once common, in castles, in manors, in courts across Europe. It was meant to seal what words and rings could not. It was evidence. Proof. Binding. There is no joy in it, no cruelty either, just duty and silence. You stand there for a moment longer, then turn and walk away, your footsteps soft against the old stone. Down the corridor the torches are dimming, the guards yawn quietly. Somewhere a lute plays a single fading chord. The bride will sleep now, alone. The groom, her real husband, waits in Vienna across fields and forests and borders. The marriage, begun in paper and candlelight, will become real only when she travels to meet him. That journey will begin soon, but not tonight. Tonight, the chateau sleeps, and so should you. Let your breath slow. Let the imagined flicker of candlelight fade behind your eyelids. Let the quiet hush of ancient walls wrap gently around you. You are safe, you are warm, and the story is not over. It is morning again, but the world feels slower now. The frenzy of the wedding day has passed. The bells are silent, the halls are quieter. Only the steady footsteps of servants and the soft sweep of brooms echo through the corridors. But beneath the calm, there is movement. Quiet, deliberate, and serious. Because now that the bride is wed, at least in name, the dowry must be delivered. You rise slowly, the air still cool from the night. Outside, mist clings to the low fields beyond the orchard, curling around the hedgerows like pale ribbon. The sky's pale grey, the kind of colourless morning that makes candles feel warmer. You wrap your cloak around your shoulders and descend to the lower gallery, where the treasurer has called for assistance. The dowry. Such a small word, but behind it, entire kingdoms can rise or fall. It is more than a gift, more than a gesture. It is a contractual weight, paid in coin, in land, in titles, in jewels, sometimes in ships, sometimes in grain, sometimes in promises whispered behind closed doors. The dowry is the price of a princess, and you're about to see it counted. The room is called the Solar Vault, so named not because of the sun, but for its warmth. It sits high on the east side of the chateau with narrow windows that face the dawn. Here, the royal accounts are kept, thick ledgers bound in leather, iron coffers sealed with wax, shelves of scrolls, some tied in silk, others bound in rough twine. You're shown to a long table covered in green baize, and there, resting on cushions of crimson velvet, are 3 items: a ledger, a sealed chest, and a rolled parchment with a golden thread. The steward of finance stands nearby. His robes are heavy, his fingers stained with ink. He does not smile. He begins to read. The dowry is composed of many parts. First, silver coin, 30,000 écus struck in Paris, to be paid in 3 installments. The first payment will be sent immediately with the bride's retinue. The others will follow after her journey is complete and verified by official witness. The silver glints under the candlelight as the coffer is opened. The coins have the king's face on one side and a cross on the other. You are asked to weigh a sample bag, an old tradition, a symbol of good faith. Second, a land grant, an estate near Dijon, fertile and already producing wheat and barley, its revenues promised to the new household of the bride. The document is long, sealed with a red ribbon and 5 wax crests. You watch as it is read aloud, line by line, in the presence of 2 witnesses. Third, jewels, not the heirloom she wears, but new ones, offered as gifts to the groom's family. A necklace of sapphires set in gold, a brooch in the shape of a hawk, and a signet ring bearing the arms of her house, to be given to her husband on their first night together. These have been prepared separately and wrapped in embroidered silk. You are allowed only a glimpse. Finally, a promise of support, a quiet clause tucked into the contract known to few. Should the bride die childless, her dowry, or what remains of it, will be returned. But should she bear a son, and that son become heir, the lands and silver will pass into his name, forever binding the houses. This clause, the steward says quietly, is the most important part of all. You help seal the chest. A soft strip of linen is dipped in wax and pressed with the royal crest. 2 locks, 2 keys. One will travel with the bride, the other remains here in trust. You cannot help but wonder, how must it feel to have your worth weighed in metal, in land, in ink, to walk into marriage with your price counted, itemized, witnessed? Does she think of it, or has she been taught not to? Later that day, you're sent to the bride's chamber once more, not for finery or ceremony this time, but to carry down her letters, a small bundle, tied with a pale green ribbon, each sealed with wax. One is addressed to her husband, whom she has not yet met. Another to his mother. One, faintly scented, is for her confessor. You're instructed not to look, but the names alone are heavy with meaning. She stands as you enter, dressed plainly today, in a soft wool gown, hair unadorned. Her coronet rests on the table beside her, untouched since yesterday. She looks smaller now, not broken, not afraid, just quiet. She hands you the letters with a nod, and you bow and leave. By nightfall, wagons are packed, chests wrapped in wool cloth, horses readied. The first of the escort guards arrives from the east. Their armour is not as polished as the king's men, but they bear the seal of the empire. The journey will begin soon, and with it, the next part of her life, a wife by law, a queen-in-waiting by fate, a girl carrying silver, parchment, and centuries of expectation. You lie awake for a time that night, watching shadows move across the ceiling, listening to the wind in the chimney, the quiet scuff of boots in the hall, the rustle of paper being carried through stone. Let yourself drift now. Let your thoughts carry you gently through the night, through the soft echo of vows and coin, lace and parchment. You are here, in the quiet heart of history, and tomorrow the road awaits. Dawn again. But this one is different. The air is still, almost reverent. The morning sky is a pale sweep of porcelain blue, and the only sound is the slow, measured creak of wagon wheels, and the soft clink of harnesses being buckled. The chateau, which for days had bustled like a hive, now stands hushed, watching, waiting. Today, the bride leaves. Her journey begins, not merely a ride across borders, but a symbolic crossing, from daughter to wife, from one kingdom to another, a farewell cloaked in ceremony, shadowed by distance. You stand in the upper corridor overlooking the inner courtyard. Below, the bride's retinue is assembling, not hurried, not chaotic. Everything has been planned to the last detail. 2 carriages, one for the bride, one for her senior ladies, 6 covered wagons for her trousseau and dowry, 8 horses, 12 guards in red and gold bearing pikes, and a priest, riding alongside, carrying letters and blessings and silence. The bride herself appears only after all is prepared. She descends slowly from her chamber, surrounded by her ladies. She wears travel garments today, a woolen overgown lined in fur, a fine veil pinned beneath a travelling cap, and gloves that reach past her wrists. Not plain, not gaudy, measured. She carries a handkerchief embroidered with her family's crest. You notice she clutches it tightly. No music plays, no bells ring. This is not a parade. It is a rite of passage. The Duchess, her mother, stands near the stables. Their goodbye is brief. There are no tears, no embraces, only a quiet exchange of words that you cannot hear. Then a kiss on the forehead, a gesture of blessing. The bride turns, steps into the carriage. The door closes, and with that the procession begins to move, slowly at first, like a river thawing at winter's end, wheels turning over the old stones, horses stepping in rhythm, the guards flanking either side like shadows. At the gate, a small crowd of villagers watches in silence. Some cross themselves, others bow their heads. No one waves, no one cheers. Because this is not a celebration, it is a transfer. You're not part of the procession, but you have been allowed to ride ahead with a courier, carrying documents, orders and letters for the next estate where the bridal party will rest. The courier is quiet, focused. The horse moves steadily beneath you. The road is narrow, lined with frost-kissed grass, and every now and then a bird startles from the hedgerow, flapping briefly into the sky before vanishing into the trees. As you ride, the landscape changes. The forests become denser, the villages quieter. You pass shrines at crossroads, small figures of saints tucked into niches, candles half melted in clay bowls. You think of the bride behind you, hidden in the dark interior of the carriage. What does she see? What does she think? Or has she been taught not to? By midday, the procession stops at a walled estate just across the border, a neutral ground where the two kingdoms' officials will meet to confirm the transfer. You arrive just before them. The local steward greets you, nods once, then sets about preparing the great hall. Fires are lit, food is laid out, blank documents await signatures, and soon they arrive. The gates creak open. The bride's carriage enters slowly, flanked now by men in new colours, imperial grey, deep burgundy. You recognise none of them. Their accents are sharp, unfamiliar. They do not bow, only nod. This is the handover. It is a quiet, diplomatic ceremony. Inside the hall, the French official reads aloud the terms of the transfer. The dowry has been weighed. The chests have been counted. The bride named, described, and acknowledged. She stands beside the hearth as they speak, her face unreadable. The imperial official reads his acceptance. 2 copies are signed. Seals are pressed into wax. The priest offers a short prayer in Latin. Then the French official steps back, and the bride is led forward. Not dragged, not pushed, but gently taken by the hand, as if a candle were being passed between gloved palms. She steps forward, and now she stands on imperial soil, no longer French property, no longer under her father's name, and with that step, her world has changed. The party rests briefly. Meals are taken in silence. You notice how the guards no longer speak French. The food is subtly different. Less spice, more vinegar, the rooms colder. In the evening, you help unload a chest of gowns for the bride to change into. One of the new ladies, speaking a soft dialect of German, asks you to light the fire in her room. She smiles once, kindly but distant. A stranger now serves her. You're not needed anymore. That night you sleep in the loft above the stables. You lie awake for some time, listening to the wind tug at the shutters and the horses shifting below. Outside, the trees rustle gently, and the moon slips behind a veil of grey cloud. You think of the girl in the carriage, of the silent goodbyes, of the quiet moment when her foot touched new soil. She is not a girl now. She's a bride, a commodity, a connection, but also perhaps still a person. Let your eyes close now. Let the thought of that quiet road linger in your mind. The trees overhead, the frost on the grass, the sound of wheels turning slowly toward a future not yet seen. You are safe, held gently in the long arms of time. Rest well. The road has changed. Gone are the forest tracks and narrow bridges, the frost-bitten ditches and the shrines nestled among hawthorn trees. Now you pass through open fields, cultivated and measured, marked by low stone walls and rows of winter cabbages. The sky arches high and pale above, like parchment soaked in milk. It is quieter now. The entourage, though still formal, has grown more subdued. There is less pageantry with each passing league, fewer onlookers, fewer formal greetings. There is only the steady rhythm of horses and wheels, boots on gravel, the snap of standards in the wind. The bride has not emerged from her carriage in days. She eats inside, she prays inside, she writes letters, though to whom you do not know. The journey feels less like a procession and more like a quiet approach to something immense. And at last, on the 6th morning after the handover, you see it, the imperial court. It rises from the edge of the horizon, not like a castle, but like a city unto itself. A sprawl of high walls and sharp towers, arches and iron gates. The flag of the empire flutters high above the central spire, black and gold stitched with a double-headed eagle. As the procession nears, you hear the trumpets. Not loud, not celebratory, just enough to signal that the bride has come. A line of imperial guards waits at the outer gate, each holding a long halberd tipped in iron. Their armour is dull with cold and discipline. No cheering crowds greet you, just silence and formality. At the gates, the procession halts. A rider steps forward, bearing the final document, sealed, folded and stamped. It is handed to the chief usher of the court, who reads it without expression. Then he nods, and the gates open. You pass into the outer courtyard, a vast echoing space paved in uneven flagstone. A fountain in the shape of a lion stands dry and frozen at the centre. Rows of windows peer down from high above like watching eyes. Servants in dark livery move quietly across the yard. They do not smile. The bride's carriage continues to the inner court. You dismount. Inside, the court is a different world. The walls are not hung with banners, but with tapestries, thick, solemn and heavy with the colours of old blood and winter leaves. There is a stillness here that speaks of power not worn loudly but carried deep. The air is colder, and not just because of the season. There is ceremony in every movement, observation in every glance. You're led through arched hallways, past rooms where scholars argue in low voices, where scribes bend over parchment, where guards stand without speaking, and then, finally, into a tall chamber known as the Hall of Concord. This is where she will meet her husband. You're not permitted to enter the hall. You wait instead in a side corridor, where a single carved bench rests beneath a faded tapestry. Still, through the half-open door you hear muffled voices. The bride has been led in by her new attendants. You imagine her straight-backed, composed. You imagine the groom standing at the far end of the room. He's younger than many had expected. Only 23, a scholar, a soldier, a prince. He wears black, the colour of dignity in this court. You hear his voice, low, formal, cautious. The introductions are made. Then the reaffirmation of vows begins, spoken in Latin, sealed with hands touched, not held. There is no kiss, no public warmth, just the echo of ancient phrases binding their lives in law and alliance. A court official reads aloud a description of the bride's dowry. The groom nods. Another describes the lands to be granted to her. She nods, and at last, the final seal is pressed, not in wax but in gold leaf. Melted and marked by the imperial signet, she is now, fully and finally, his wife. Later that day, you are given a small task, delivering gloves and a ledger to the steward's office near the eastern gallery. On your way, you pass the long corridor that leads to the bridal apartments. It is empty, but you pause. A single window at the end looks out over the inner garden, where bare branches claw gently at the air, and a light snow has begun to fall, soft and slow. For a moment, everything is still. You wonder if she's watching from somewhere behind the curtain. You wonder if she feels like a queen, or simply a guest in a strange house. That night, the court holds a quiet banquet in honour of the union. It is not lavish. The table is long and the guest reserved. There are courses of game and root vegetables, warmed wine with cinnamon, and a chorus of 3 lutes played from the gallery above. The bride and groom sit side by side but speak little. They are polite, cordial, perfectly balanced between strangers and partners. You sit far below, near the end of the table, among minor attendants and stable masters. The wine is good. The fire crackles, and though there is no joy in the air, there is a sense of something complete. The first steps have been taken, the marriage is sealed, the future is in motion. You walk back to your quarters under a sky now thick with snow. Each flake settles like a quiet word, the castle sleeps, and so, soon, will you. Let the imagined sound of crackling logs follow you now. Let your breath slow. Let your mind rest in that still corridor, where high windows look out on the winter garden and nothing stirs. You are here, in the hush of history, and the story continues. The morning light filters softly through tall, narrow windows, casting gentle stripes across the stone floor. The air inside the imperial court is cool but not cold, just enough to remind you of the season's quiet grip. Outside, the garden is dusted with snow, each branch outlined in delicate white, as if nature itself is holding its breath. You find yourself once again near the bridal apartments. The heavy oak door, studded with iron nails, stands closed, guarding the new world inside. Today marks the beginning, not just of a marriage, but of a transformation. The bride will now step fully into her role as wife, consort, and perhaps in time, queen. Inside, the chambers are richly furnished but restrained. Tapestries of deep crimson and gold hang on the walls, depicting scenes from ancient legends and royal triumphs. The hearth burns low, its embers glowing faintly. A faint scent of lavender lingers in the air, carefully placed by her ladies to calm nerves and bring peace. You imagine her sitting by the window, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her gaze is distant, thoughtful. She's no longer the girl who left her father's castle days ago. She carries now the weight of a household, of alliances, of expectations both spoken and unspoken. Her clothes have changed too. Gone are the travelling gowns. In their place, layers of fine silk and velvet, embroidered with threads of silver and pearl. A gown of midnight blue, embroidered with tiny stars, is laid out on a chair. It is meant for the first official court appearance, a symbol of loyalty and grace. Her hair is braided carefully by her ladies, the strands intertwined with small ribbons and pearls. You wonder how she feels beneath all this finery. Does it comfort her, or does it remind her of the walls closing in? A soft knock at the door. Her chamberlain enters quietly, bearing a small leather-bound book, a book of household rules, written in neat script. It outlines her duties, the expected etiquette, the management of servants, and the protocols for court appearances. She will need to learn every line, every expectation, every subtle nuance. Because being a royal wife is not simply about marriage, it is about power, power wielded quietly, through whispered words, exchanged glances, and carefully guarded secrets. Later that afternoon, she is summoned to meet the Empress, a formidable woman with a sharp gaze and an even sharper tongue. The meeting is brief, formal, and filled with unspoken tests. The Empress speaks of loyalty, duty, and the importance of producing heirs. Her words are measured but heavy. You can sense the pressure building, the invisible chains tightening. The bride listens carefully, nodding when appropriate. Her face betrays little, but her eyes hint at a flicker of fear, or perhaps resolve. You leave her chamber with a sense of quiet contemplation. Outside, the snow continues to fall, soft and relentless. The world seems hushed, as if holding its breath for what is to come. You walk slowly through the stone corridors, past quiet courtyards and shuttered windows, and you realize this is not just the story of a wedding. It is the story of a life transformed, of a girl becoming a queen. Now let your breath slow, your body sink deeper into rest. Feel the gentle weight of history around you, the quiet snow outside the window, the soft crackle of embers in the hearth, and let sleep come gently, softly, like a silken cloak wrapping you in peace. The evening has fallen quietly over the imperial palace. The vast halls, usually alive with voices and footsteps, have grown still. Only the soft murmur of servants preparing chambers and the faint flicker of candlelight disturb the calm. Outside, the winter night presses gently against the thick stone walls, wrapping the court in silence. Tonight is unlike any other. Tonight is the ceremony of the bedchamber, a ritual as old as kingdoms themselves, a moment where personal and political worlds converge in quiet solemnity. You find yourself again near the bridal apartments, where the heavy curtains are drawn against the chill. The bride stands with her attendants, her face pale but composed. Her gown has been exchanged once more, this time for a dress of deep crimson velvet, trimmed with delicate white fur. A veil of fine silk is pinned gently over her braided hair. The atmosphere is hushed, not sombre, but measured, as if everyone is aware of the gravity held in each breath. The room is arranged carefully. The bed, draped with embroidered tapestries, is the centerpiece. Pillows are fluffed, sheets smoothed to a perfect stillness. A small table holds a silver basin filled with warm water, and beside it, a folded towel embroidered with the imperial crest. The bride's ladies assist her to remove the outer layers of her gown, folding them neatly, the fabric soft beneath her fingers. Then slowly she settles onto the bed, sitting upright, as the chamberlain enters carrying a small ornate box. Inside are tokens of the groom's family, gifts symbolizing trust and union, a ring of gold, a silk handkerchief, a delicate necklace of pearls and garnets. Each item is handed to her, and with each she whispers a vow of loyalty. The chamberlain records these silently in a ledger, ensuring the ceremony is witnessed and remembered. Then comes the moment of the night's ritual, the arrival of the groom. He enters quietly, eyes lowered, cloak drawn back to reveal his simple black doublet embroidered with the family crest. His steps are measured, careful, no fanfare, no flourish. He approaches the bed and kneels beside her. A hush falls. He offers the ring, the token of his promise. She takes it, fingers trembling just slightly. They exchange few words, only a whispered pledge. The groom's hand rests gently on the bride's wrist. For a brief moment, the cold of the stone walls seems to soften. The vastness of the palace feels smaller, more intimate. Outside, the court waits. Behind heavy tapestries, whispers circulate. Questions of future heirs, of alliances solidified, of power balanced delicately on the edge of this new union. But inside the chamber, the world narrows to the soft sound of breath, the faint rustle of silk, and the steady pulse of two hearts beginning to beat as one. After the groom departs, the bride is left with her ladies once more. The room feels still, yet charged with the quiet promise of what is to come. The veil is removed, hair loosened, and the fire is stoked anew to chase away the winter's chill. You imagine her lying back on the embroidered pillows, eyes closed, thoughts drifting like the snow outside, a mixture of hope and uncertainty mingling beneath the surface. Now, as your own eyes grow heavy, let yourself settle into rest. Feel the warmth of the chamber, the soft weight of velvet and fur. Hear the gentle crackle of the fire, the whispered vows carried on the cold night air. Let your breath slow, your thoughts quiet, and drift gently into sleep. Morning arrives slowly at the imperial court. The light seeps softly through high windows, casting long shadows across the polished stone floors. Outside, the garden remains blanketed in snow, each branch sparkling like crystal under a pale sun. Inside, the palace stirs to life with a measured calm. You find yourself wandering through the grand halls once more, the muffled footsteps of courtiers echoing faintly around you. Velvet curtains sway slightly in the cool breeze from open windows, and the scent of beeswax candles lingers in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of aged parchment and leather-bound books. This is the rhythm of court life, a slow dance of appearances and whispered words, glances and half-smiles. It is a place where power is not shouted, but woven delicately through every gesture and glance. The bride, now fully settled into her new role, rises early. Her mornings begin with lessons in etiquette and language, guided by a stern governess who corrects her posture and enunciates each word carefully. Latin phrases spill softly from her lips as she practices letters sent to distant relatives and allies. Her gowns for the day are chosen meticulously, silks in muted tones of grey and green, embroidered with tiny silver threads that catch the light like frost. Each garment is a symbol, a statement of her growing status and carefully cultivated image. You observe as she walks through the halls, her steps measured, her gaze steady. Courtiers bow politely, masks of polite interest carefully maintained. But beneath the surface, the court is a web of quiet tensions. The groom's advisors watch her closely, silent judges of her every word, every mannerism. They question her loyalties, her upbringing, and her ability to bear heirs. The empress, ever watchful, offers occasional sharp smiles that do not reach her eyes. Yet, in private moments, the bride retreats to the small chapel tucked away behind the palace kitchens. Here, beneath stained glass windows that cast coloured patterns on stone floors, she kneels in prayer. Her whispered words blend with the faint rustle of robes and the distant tolling of bells. Outside, the palace gardens offer a brief respite. You imagine the bride slipping through the snow-dusted paths, the cold air biting gently at her cheeks, her breath a soft mist. The trees stand bare but patient, witnesses to the unfolding of alliances and promises. She pauses beside a frozen fountain, the statue of a lion staring blankly ahead. For a moment, she seems not a princess or bride, but simply a young woman caught in the tides of history, searching for a place to call home. As evening falls, the great hall fills once more with the muted hum of conversation and the soft clinking of glasses. Dinner is a quiet affair, stews of root vegetables and tender game, bread still warm from the oven, and spiced wine that warms the throat. You sit among the lesser nobility, feeling the weight of countless eyes watching the bride and groom as they navigate their new roles. The night stretches long, but beneath the polished veneer, you sense the fragile balance of trust and suspicion that holds the court together. Now, as your own breath slows and your muscles relax, let the soft sounds of candlelight and distant voices lull you deeper into rest. Feel the stillness of the palace around you, the quiet tension giving way to peaceful sleep. Let your mind drift gently on the currents of history, safe in the embrace of time. The days at court blend gently into one another, each unfolding with the quiet rhythm of ceremony and conversation. The palace feels like a living tapestry, threads of power and allegiance woven through every smile, every whispered word, every measured gesture. You move through this world like a silent observer, feeling the pulse of diplomacy beating softly beneath the surface. Today, the bride's life extends beyond the bridal chambers and formal lessons. She steps into the delicate world of political strategy, a realm where words are carefully chosen, and every meeting holds weight far beyond the moment. The morning sun glints faintly off the polished silverware laid out in the great dining hall, where envoys from neighbouring kingdoms gather. Their faces are composed, guarded, as they exchange greetings steeped in tradition. Rich fabrics rustle softly, punctuated by the quiet clinking of cups and the occasional soft murmur in languages ancient and foreign. You watch as the bride is escorted to a small salon adjacent to the hall, where she will meet the ambassadors, some familiar, others strangers. Her gown is understated but elegant, a deep emerald silk embroidered with tiny gold leaves that shimmer gently in the light. Her hair is pulled back neatly, adorned with a single pearl comb, a subtle signal of grace and strength. The conversations are polite, formal, yet beneath the surface you sense currents of tension and alliance, of promises made and perhaps quietly broken. The bride listens carefully, her eyes steady. Though young, she begins to understand that diplomacy is less about loud declarations and more about reading the spaces between words, the silence, the pause, the glance. She exchanges gifts, a small embroidered pouch here, a delicate painted miniature there, symbols meant to bind hearts and minds across borders. Each offering carries meaning, and each is received with careful appreciation. Later, you see her writing letters by candlelight, the soft scratch of quill on parchment, a companion to the flickering flame. Her hand is steady, the words deliberate. She thanks distant relatives for their support, reassures allies of her loyalty, and subtly weaves hints of influence and request. This is diplomacy in its quiet form, crafting connections, building trust, and gently shaping the future. As dusk falls, the court gathers once more for a small reception. Musicians play softly, the delicate notes of viols and flutes mingling with murmured conversation. The bride and groom move through the crowd, their faces composed, their roles clear. You notice the subtle nods exchanged between nobles, the fleeting smiles, the carefully averted eyes. It is a dance of alliances, a game played with poise and precision. At night, as you return to your quarters, the palace settles into a deep silence. The shadows lengthen, and the distant hoot of an owl echoes faintly. You close your eyes and imagine the bride seated by her window, watching the stars begin to twinkle above the snow-blanketed gardens. In this quiet moment, diplomacy feels less like a task and more like a delicate art, a gentle weaving of futures in the soft light of hope and uncertainty. Now, breathe deeply and slowly, feel the calm of this ancient palace surrounding you. Let the gentle music of the court fade into the quiet of night, and drift softly into restful sleep. The palace is alive with a gentle hum today, a rare softness against the usual weight of protocol. Word has spread. A feast will be held in honour of the newlywed couple. The preparations have begun days in advance, and the air is thick with the mingled scents of roasting meats, fresh bread, and fragrant spices that seem almost exotic in the cold winter air. You find yourself wandering through the bustling kitchens where cooks and servants move with practiced ease. Massive cauldrons bubble over open fires, their rich aromas swirling upward to mingle with the scent of beeswax candles and polished wood. The clatter of pots and the low murmur of conversations create a warm, comforting backdrop. The bride's chambers buzz with excitement. She's being dressed for the occasion, her attendants weaving intricate braids into her hair, decorating it with ribbons and small pearls that catch the light like tiny stars. Her gown today is magnificent. Layers of silk in rich burgundy and gold, embroidered with delicate floral patterns symbolizing fertility and prosperity. The fabric sways softly as she moves, heavy with the weight of both beauty and expectation. Her jewels glint in the candlelight, a necklace of sapphires, earrings shaped like tiny roses. Each piece tells a story, a message of wealth, alliance, and status. She is transformed before your eyes, not just a bride, but a queen in waiting, radiant and poised. The great hall is decorated lavishly. Tapestries depicting ancient battles and royal hunts hang on the walls, their colours vivid and rich. Garland of evergreens and holly are woven through iron chandeliers, and the long wooden tables gleam beneath polished silver candlesticks. Servants move silently between guests, offering platters piled high with roasted boar, pheasant, sweetmeats, and spiced wine warmed with cinnamon and cloves. The guests arrive in a steady stream, nobles, diplomats, artists, and courtiers, each adorned in their finest attire. The hum of polite conversation fills the hall, punctuated by the occasional laughter and the soft clinking of glasses. Musicians take their places, their lutes and viols weaving a delicate melody through the air, setting a serene and festive tone. The bride and groom enter together, their hands lightly touching, faces composed but softened by a rare shared smile. They move with grace, acknowledging their guests with subtle nods and quiet words. Throughout the evening, you watch as the bride navigates the complex social dance of the court. She listens attentively, offers polite compliments, and participates in the carefully scripted toasts. Though the weight of expectation rests heavily on her shoulders, she carries herself with a calm dignity that hints at strength beneath the silk and jewels. The feast lasts late into the night, stories are told, dances are shared, and the flickering candlelight casts long shadows that seem to dance along with the guests. The cold winter night presses against the thick walls outside, but inside the warmth of friendship, alliance, and celebration fills the air. As the evening draws to a close, the bride retires to her chambers, her heart full with the echoes of the day. She removes her jewels slowly, the cool night air brushing against her skin as she prepares for rest. Outside, snow falls silently once more, blanketing the world in quiet white. Now let the soft glow of candlelight and the gentle melody of distant music carry you towards sleep. Feel the warmth of the feast lingering like a comforting cloak, wrapping you softly in peace. Breathe deeply, slowly, and let your mind drift into dreams woven with the threads of history and hope. The morning after the feast dawns soft and grey, with low clouds muffling the winter light. Outside, the palace gardens lie quiet beneath a blanket of frost, their once vibrant colours muted to silvery shades. Inside, the halls are already stirring with the measured footsteps of courtiers and servants preparing for the day's ceremonies. You find yourself drawn once again to the bridal chambers, where the bride is contemplating the next challenge of her new role, the intricate language spoken not in words, but in fabric, colour, and adornment. In Renaissance Europe, dress was far more than mere clothing. It was a code, a carefully crafted message. Every stitch, every hue, and every embellishment conveyed information about status, allegiance, and intent. To understand this language was to understand the very politics of the court. The bride's wardrobe is a treasury of symbolism. Today, she's to wear a gown of deep purple velvet, trimmed with gold thread and studded with tiny pearls. Purple, the colour of royalty and power, marks her elevated status. Gold symbolises wealth and divine favour. Pearls, cherished for their purity, hint at her youth and virtue. Her ladies assist her carefully, their fingers steady and practised. They help weave ribbons into her braided hair, attach delicate jewelled pins, and arrange a fine lace collar around her neck, a detail meant to signal refinement and good breeding. A pair of soft leather slippers embroidered with intricate floral designs completes the ensemble. As she dresses, she studies her reflection in the polished mirror, a young woman transformed by fabric into a symbol of alliance and hope. Beyond her chambers, the court watches closely. Nobles and ambassadors note every detail, interpreting the unspoken language. A flash of emerald here might signal a connection to a powerful family. A carefully chosen brooch could hint at loyalties yet unspoken. The bride knows this well. She understands that each day, each appearance, is a performance with its own audience and expectations. Later, she walks through the palace corridors, her gown swishing softly against the cold stone floor. Courtiers bow deeply, their eyes briefly flicking to her elaborate attire. Murmurs follow her path, speculating on the messages woven into her clothing and jewels. Yet, beneath the grandeur, she feels the weight of it all, a heavy, shimmering mantle of responsibility and scrutiny. As evening descends, you imagine her seated by a small fire, loosening the heavy fabrics and sighing softly. The layers of silk and velvet fall away, leaving only the quiet warmth of a simple linen shift beneath. Outside, the stars begin to emerge, cool and distant. The palace grows silent again, wrapped in the hush of night. Now, as you settle deeper into your own rest, let the soft textures and quiet colours of this story surround you. Feel the gentle weight of velvet and lace, the shimmer of pearls, and the silent power they hold. Breathe slowly, deeply, and drift peacefully into sleep, carried on the gentle currents of history. The morning light filters gently through the stained glass windows, casting muted colours upon the cold stone floors of the palace. Outside, the gardens remain still beneath a frosty dawn, the air crisp and pure. Inside, a subtle anticipation lingers, the kind that precedes a ritual both intimate and deeply symbolic. Today is the day of the exchange of gifts, a ceremony laden with meaning beyond the simple act of giving. It is a silent language of promises, respect, and alliances. You find yourself standing quietly in a gilded chamber, its walls adorned with rich tapestries and portraits of ancestors long past. The bride and groom sit facing one another, attended by their closest confidants. The air is heavy with the scent of beeswax candles, polished wood, and the faint hint of lavender. Between them rests a low table, upon which lie carefully wrapped parcels, each chosen to convey messages unspoken, gestures of goodwill and hope. The groom presents first, a finely wrought gold ring, etched with intricate patterns, its surface catching the flicker of candlelight. It symbolises his commitment, not only to her but to the uniting of two great houses. Next, a delicate embroidered handkerchief, soft silk woven with threads of blue and silver, a token of affection and protection. Each gift is accepted with a small nod, a soft smile, the faintest glimmer of understanding passing between them. Then it is the bride's turn. She offers a slender necklace of polished amber, warm and glowing like captured sunlight. This gift, a reflection of her homeland, carries with it the weight of heritage and the hope for a fruitful union. Alongside it, a small leather-bound prayer book, its pages filled with prayers for health, happiness, and prosperity. These offerings are received with quiet reverence, a mutual acknowledgement of the deeper ties now forged. Around them, the court watches with careful attention. The exchange of gifts is not merely personal, it is political, a public reaffirmation of alliances and promises that will ripple through the years to come. Courtiers murmur softly, interpreting the significance of each item, the symbolism carefully woven into every choice. After the ceremony, the couple rises and shares a brief tender moment, a look, a touch, a shared breath in the stillness of the chamber. For a fleeting instant, the weight of history and expectation lightens, and two individuals glimpse the fragile hope of a shared future. As the day fades into evening, the palace grows quiet once more. You imagine the bride retreating to her chamber, the gifts resting safely beside her, silent witnesses to this new chapter. Outside, the snow begins to fall softly, muffling the world in a gentle white embrace. Now, let the calm of this moment settle around you. Feel the warmth of amber and gold, the softness of silk and leather. Let the quiet grace of exchange promises lull you deeper into rest. Breathe slowly, gently, and drift peacefully into sleep, carried on the tender threads of history's unfolding story. The morning sun rises slowly over the palace rooftops, casting a soft golden glow through the arched windows of the music chamber. The room is warm and quiet, filled with the gentle scent of polished wood and aged parchment. Rows of instruments rest carefully along the walls, lutes, viols, harps, and flutes, each waiting patiently for the touch of a skilled hand. You find yourself seated near the bride as she listens intently to the soft melodies drifting through the room. Music, in this time and place, is more than mere entertainment. It is an essential part of courtly life, a language that speaks directly to the heart and mind. A gentle lute begins to play, its delicate notes weaving a tapestry of sound that wraps softly around the room. A poet seated nearby recites verses composed for the occasion, words of love, loyalty, and hope. The bride's eyes close briefly, allowing the music and poetry to wash over her, carrying her away from the weight of her new responsibilities, if only for a moment. Music and poetry at a royal wedding serve many purposes. They honour the union, celebrate the joining of families and kingdoms, and express the deep emotions that sometimes go unspoken in the formal ceremonies. The songs tell stories of legendary lovers and heroic deeds, reminding all present of the ideals that this marriage aspires to embody. The bride, though young, has learned to appreciate these moments of quiet reflection. She understands that beneath the grandeur of fabric and ritual lies a very human need for connection and expression. The soft music soothes her restless thoughts, offering comfort and a gentle reminder of beauty amidst the demands of court life. As the melodies linger in the air, you notice how even the courtiers seem to soften, their faces losing some of their usual guarded expressions. For a brief time, the palace feels less like a fortress of politics and more like a home filled with shared stories and tender hopes. As evening approaches, the music fades, leaving a peaceful silence that settles like a warm blanket over the palace. You imagine the bride retreating to her chamber, with the quiet echo of lute strings still playing softly in her mind. Now, as you lie comfortably and your breath deepens, let the soft music and whispered poetry carry you gently into sleep. Feel the delicate notes like a lullaby, wrapping you in calm and quiet. Breathe slowly, peacefully, and drift softly into rest, cradled by the timeless harmony of history's song. The dawn breaks softly over the palace, a pale wash of pink and grey stretching across the sky. Outside, the gardens lie quiet beneath a delicate frost, their skeletal branches reaching upward like whispered prayers. Inside, the court awakens slowly, but today carries a peculiar weight, a day marked by rituals both sacred and strange. You find yourself once more among the flickering candlelight of the bridal chambers, where whispers of ancient customs swirl like a gentle mist. Royal weddings in the 1500s were steeped not only in grandeur, but also in rituals that can seem bizarre to our modern eyes, rituals that blend superstition, religion, and politics into a single, intricate dance. One such ritual is the jumping the broom. Though less common in European courts, variations existed where the couple symbolically crossed thresholds or performed acts meant to cleanse and protect their union. In some courts, this took the form of stepping over a broom or small bundle of twigs, signifying the sweeping away of past misfortunes and the beginning of a new life. In another ceremony, the bride and groom would taste a symbolic marriage pie, baked with carefully chosen ingredients like cinnamon and cloves, spices believed to bring fertility and happiness. This small shared bite represented unity and the sweet promise of their future. Perhaps most curious is the tradition of the bed ceremony, a public ritual in some courts where the newlyweds were led to their bedchamber amid prayers and blessings. Though private in nature today, this moment was once a communal, almost theatrical act, meant to assure the court of the consummation of the marriage and the hope for heirs. You imagine the bride, heart fluttering with a mix of nervousness and resolve, participating in these customs. The weight of tradition presses gently but insistently upon her, guiding her steps through these rites that blend the mysterious with the profound. Yet, beneath the surface of ritual and spectacle lies a quieter truth. These acts serve to bind not just two people, but entire families and kingdoms. They are the threads of belief and hope that stitch together the fabric of society, delicate yet enduring. As the day wears on, the palace settles into a hush, shadows lengthening in the fading light. You picture the bride, alone for a moment, reflecting on the strange and sacred rites she has witnessed, feeling perhaps both the weight and wonder of history's embrace. Now, as your own breath slows and softens, let these curious customs drift gently through your mind. Allow their rhythms and meanings to soothe you, a lullaby of ancient hopes and quiet strength. Breathe deeply, calmly, and let yourself drift peacefully into sleep, cradled by the gentle mysteries of the past. The morning light filters softly through the stained glass windows of the great hall, casting colourful patterns on the cold stone floor. The palace walls are adorned with banners and shields, each emblazoned with intricate symbols, colours and motifs that tell stories older than the very stones beneath your feet. You find yourself standing amidst this sea of heraldry, where every emblem is a silent but powerful declaration. In the world of Renaissance royal weddings, heraldry was far more than decoration. It was a language of identity, lineage, and loyalty, spoken boldly on flags, clothing, and even the very architecture of the court. The bride's gown today is no exception. It bears the intertwined arms of her family and her new husband's, carefully embroidered with threads of gold and silver. This visible joining of two lineages symbolizes the merging of fortunes and futures, a public declaration of unity and strength. Each coat of arms tells a story. Lions rampant speak of courage and nobility. Eagles soar as symbols of power and vision, while fleur-de-lis evoke a divine right to rule. Colours carry their own meanings, red for warrior spirit and sacrifice, blue for loyalty and truth, green for hope and renewal. As you wander through the procession of nobles, you notice how each person's attire reflects their own heraldic identity. Caps are adorned with plumes in family colours, cloaks bear embroidered crests, and shields are carried with proud reverence. The heralds themselves, with their trumpets and banners, announce the arrival of the couple and their guests. Their booming calls echo through the stone halls, punctuating the ceremony with a regal rhythm that commands attention and respect. In the quiet moments between festivities, the bride studies these symbols carefully. She understands that to wear her new coat of arms is to wear the hopes of generations, to become both a bearer of history and a maker of new stories. As twilight falls, the banners flutter softly in the cool evening breeze, their colours muted but still vivid in the fading light. The palace settles into a hushed calm, the echoes of heraldic calls lingering like distant thunder. Now, as you lie comfortably, let the rich colours and bold symbols of heraldry fill your thoughts. Imagine the gentle flutter of banners, the quiet pride of lineage, and the deep roots of history reaching through the centuries. Breathe slowly, deeply, and drift softly into restful sleep, carried on the noble wings of the past. The palace garden is quiet this early morning, wrapped in a gentle mist that softens the edges of ancient stone fountains and neatly trimmed hedges. The scent of dew-laden roses mingles with the crispness of the cool air, creating a delicate freshness that seems to hold the promise of new beginnings. You stroll slowly through this tranquil space, imagining the bride walking here not so long ago, her thoughts caught between the weight of duty and the whisper of her own heart. In the world of Renaissance courts, love was often as much a performance as a feeling, a delicate dance known as courtly love. Though marriages were arranged for alliances and power, Poetry, music, and subtle gestures gave space for romance to bloom in quiet corners. The bride, now dressed in simpler garments, perhaps sits beneath a blooming arbour, reading a letter penned in a delicate hand. The words speak of admiration, devotion, and longing, carefully balanced between passion and restraint. This language of courtly love weaves through the palace, visible in exchanged glances, the gift of a single flower or a softly sung song. Courtly love was rarely straightforward. It was coded and layered, shaped by social norms and expectations. Lovers expressed themselves through riddles, symbolism, and subtlety, their feelings cloaked in manners and ritual. Despite the political nature of her marriage, the bride finds small moments to cherish the tenderness this culture allows. She learns to read the signs, the slight tilt of a head, the gentle brush of a hand, and understands that even within the grand machinery of diplomacy, human hearts quietly beat. As you breathe in the serene beauty of this garden, let your thoughts soften and deepen. Imagine the bride's quiet moments of reflection, her whispered hopes and secret dreams carried gently on the breeze. Now, with each slow breath, feel yourself relax further, wrapped in the soft glow of romance and history. Let the peaceful rhythm of courtly love guide you gently into sleep. The great hall glows softly in the late afternoon light, filtered through high, stained glass windows that scatter gentle colours across the stone floor. The air is filled with a hushed reverence, the kind that settles when a moment of deep significance is about to unfold. You stand quietly among the gathered nobles and courtiers, feeling the weight of history pressing gently upon you. Today, the bride and groom will exchange rings, a ritual that, while familiar now, held profound meaning in the 1500s. The rings themselves are small but exquisite, bands of gold, sometimes set with tiny gems or etched with delicate patterns. Each ring is a symbol, not just of love, but of commitment, loyalty, and the binding of two families. Crafted by master goldsmiths, the rings carry whispers of the artisan's skill and the promise of enduring union. As the priest intones ancient words, the bride and groom face one another, their hands trembling slightly beneath the gaze of the court. The exchange is slow, deliberate, a moment both private and public, intimate yet steeped in ceremony. The bride's fingers close gently around the groom's ring, sliding it onto his hand with a softness that belies the gravity of the act. Then, the groom returns the gesture, his eyes meeting hers with a steady, solemn gaze. Around you, the courtiers watch in respectful silence. Some whisper prayers, others simply hold their breath, sensing the sacredness of this moment. Beyond the exchange itself lies a deeper significance. The rings are a circle without end, a symbol of eternity and unbroken connection. To wear this ring is to carry a promise visible to all, a constant reminder of vows made and bonds forged. After the ceremony, the couple steps aside, their hands still joined. You imagine the quiet relief and hope mingling in their hearts, a fragile, tender beginning amidst the grandeur. As twilight settles, the palace quiets, the glow of candles softening the edges of the great hall. You breathe slowly, feeling the gentle rhythm of this ritual wrap around you like a comforting shawl. Now, let the circle of the rings hold you gently. With each breath, sink deeper into calm, allowing the sacred quiet of this moment to lull you softly towards sleep. The palace corridors stretch ahead, quiet and grand, their walls lined with flickering torches that cast dancing shadows upon the stone. The air is cool but carries a faint warmth from the glowing embers. You stand among the procession, the soft murmur of footsteps and the rustle of silk and velvet blending into a gentle rhythm. The moment has come for the bride and groom to walk together to the chapel, a journey both physical and symbolic. The procession moves slowly, deliberate through the vast halls and courtyards, each step marking a passage from old life to new. You notice the careful choreography of the procession. Nobles and dignitaries flank the couple, banners flutter softly in the mild breeze, and the steady beat of drums adds a quiet pulse to the air. Courtiers hold delicate fans or small bouquets of herbs, their scents mingling with the subtle fragrance of burning incense. The bride's gown sways gently with each step, the heavy fabric brushing softly against the floor. Her eyes are steady, though you sense the whirl of emotions beneath, a mix of anticipation, solemnity, and perhaps a touch of wonder. The groom walks beside her, his expression calm but attentive. As the procession nears the chapel, the grand wooden doors swing open with a slow, sonorous creak. Inside, the flickering candlelight illuminates stone arches and carved statues, the air thick with the scent of frankincense and old wood. Soft chants echo from the choir, their voices rising and falling like gentle waves. You imagine the couple stepping forward together, hands intertwined, ready to face the sacred ceremony that awaits them. The world outside the chapel fades into a quiet hum, leaving only the flicker of candles and the hushed voices of prayer. Outside, the evening air grows cooler, stars beginning to prick the darkening sky. The palace seems to hold its breath, wrapped in the quiet majesty of the moment. Now, as you settle deeper into your own rest, imagine the steady footsteps, the soft rustle of silks, the warm glow of candlelight. Let the gentle procession carry you peacefully forward, step by calm step, toward restful sleep. Inside the chapel, the flickering candlelight casts gentle shadows upon the ancient stone walls, their cool surfaces softened by the warm glow. The air is thick with the scent of incense and beeswax, carrying a sense of reverence and quiet expectation. You stand near the bride and groom as they face one another beneath the carved archway, their hands lightly touching, eyes locked in solemn intent. This is the moment when words, spoken softly yet with profound meaning, will bind their futures together. The priest's voice is calm and measured, echoing gently through the vaulted ceiling. He leads them through the sacred vows, a promise of loyalty, love, and partnership. Though the language is formal and traditional, the weight behind each phrase is palpable, like a quiet pulse in the room. The bride's voice trembles slightly as she speaks her promises, the sound mingling with the faint rustle of her gown and the soft breathing of the gathered court. The groom replies with steady certainty, their words weaving together a tapestry of commitment that will ripple through the years. As the final vow is spoken, the couple exchanges a gentle bow toward one another, a sign of mutual respect and newfound unity. Around them, the congregation bows their heads in silent prayer, the moment thick with solemn grace. This exchange of promises is more than ritual. It is the foundation upon which their shared life will be built. It acknowledges the delicate balance of duty and desire, the intertwining of personal hope with the weight of history. You notice the subtle exchange of glances, the briefest smile hidden beneath the formality, a whisper of humanity shining through the grandeur. As the ceremony draws to a close, soft music begins to play, a tender melody that seems to hold both the joy and the gravity of the moment. The couple steps forward together, their hands clasped tightly, ready to face the future as one. Outside, the night air is cool and still, stars shimmering faintly overhead. The palace settles into a hush, wrapped in the peaceful embrace of completion and new beginnings. Now, as your breath slows and deepens, let the quiet strength of these vows envelop you. Feel the steady rhythm of promises made and kept, the gentle certainty of connection. Breathe slowly, softly, and drift gently into sleep, carried by the serene harmony of this sacred moment. The great hall has transformed into a warm, vibrant space, glowing with the light of hundreds of candles flickering softly in iron sconces. Rich tapestries hang from the walls, their colours deepened by the dancing flames. The air is thick with the mingling scents of roasted meats, fresh herbs, spiced wine, and sweet pastries, a fragrant invitation to celebration. You find yourself seated among the guests, your eyes taking in the long wooden tables heaped with the bounty of the land and sea. Each dish is carefully chosen not only for flavour, but for its symbolic meaning, woven into the fabric of the feast like a secret language. At the centre of the table lies a magnificent roast swan, its white feathers a sign of purity and nobility, its meat a delicacy reserved for royalty. Nearby, platters of pomegranates gleam like jewels, their red seeds symbols of fertility and the promise of heirs. Bowls of honeyed almonds remind all of the sweetness hoped for in the couple's life together. The feast is a spectacle of colour and abundance. Plates of glazed fruits, rich cheeses and spiced breads fill the tables, each dish a reminder of prosperity and goodwill. Servants move silently through the hall, their hands steady as they refill goblets and replace emptied platters. As you watch, minstrels begin to play soft melodies on lutes and harps, their music weaving through the chatter and laughter like a gentle current. Poets recite verses praising the union, the hopes for peace, and the blending of two powerful families. The bride and groom move among their guests, accepting congratulations with graceful nods and quiet smiles. Their joy is tempered by the awareness of the feast's deeper purpose. It is not just a celebration, but a public demonstration of unity, strength, and shared destiny. As the evening deepens, toasts are raised, glasses clink softly, and the warmth of companionship fills the hall. Outside, the night is calm, the palace walls sheltering this intimate moment against the cool breath of the world beyond. Now, as you settle further into your restful place, imagine the soft glow of candlelight, the rich aromas of the feast, and the gentle melodies floating through the air. Let the peaceful celebration wrap around you like a comforting shawl. Breathe deeply and slowly, and drift peacefully into sleep, carried on the warmth and abundance of history's feast. The sounds of laughter and soft music spill gently into the evening air as the wedding feast slowly gives way to a different kind of celebration. The great hall, still aglow with candlelight, begins to fill with movement, a graceful swirling dance that brings lightness to the heavy weight of ceremony. You stand near the edge of the polished floor, watching as courtiers take each other's hands and glide through intricate steps. The dances are formal, choreographed sequences learned over years, yet there is a quiet joy that ripples beneath the practiced motions. The bride, radiant in her flowing gown, steps forward with her new husband, their hands clasped loosely but confidently. The music, soft lutes, gentle violins, and the rhythmic beating of tambourines carries them across the floor. Their faces are calm but alive, the dance a subtle conversation of grace and partnership. Around them, jesters perform gentle tricks, and storytellers share quiet tales of heroism and love, their voices blending with the music and the laughter of guests. These moments of entertainment serve to soften the day's formality, creating a space where the human spirit can breathe freely. You feel the gentle pull of the melodies, the slow, deliberate pace of the dances, as if time itself has softened and stretched to welcome this peaceful celebration. The air is warm, filled with the mingled scents of blooming flowers brought in from the gardens and the faint trace of spiced wine. The dancing holds a deeper meaning beyond joy. It symbolizes the harmony hoped for in the marriage, the delicate balance of two lives moving together in sync, supporting and responding to each other's steps. As the night deepens and the music slows, the dancers gradually come to rest, their breaths soft and faces flushed with quiet happiness. The hall settles into a gentle hum of conversation, the embers in the hearth glowing low and steady. Now, as you breathe softly, imagine the light footsteps, the flowing gowns, and the tender smiles of this evening dance. Let the music and movement lull you gently toward rest. Breathe deeply, slowly, and drift peacefully into sleep, carried on the gentle rhythm of history's dance. The morning after the feast arrives softly, with pale sunlight spilling through tall windows and dust motes floating lazily in the quiet air. The palace is calm, but the day holds its own special rituals, a time for the exchange and presentation of gifts, laden with meaning and symbolism. You find yourself in a grand chamber, where richly wrapped parcels and finely crafted objects are arranged carefully on tables draped in velvet. Each gift tells a story, a declaration of loyalty, a wish for prosperity, or a reminder of alliances forged. From the groom's family you see delicate pieces of jewellery, gold necklaces and rings set with rare stones, each symbolising enduring love and wealth. There are finely embroidered textiles, their threads shimmering with silver and gold, meant to clothe and honour the bride. From the bride's side there are tapestries depicting ancestral tales and rare spices from distant lands, tokens of the far-reaching connections this marriage brings. Some gifts are practical, a finely bound book, a set of ornate writing instruments, signifying the hope for wisdom and learning to flourish. The exchange is not merely about generosity but about diplomacy. Every object carries layers of meaning, a language of respect and expectation spoken through craftsmanship and care. You imagine the bride receiving these gifts, her fingers brushing lightly over each one, feeling the weight of history and hope they carry. The moment is quiet but charged with significance, a pause in the ceremony where gratitude and future promise mingle. Outside the chamber, the palace gardens bloom gently in spring, their colours muted beneath a soft breeze. The world beyond these walls seems vast and full of possibility, held close for now within this small sacred space. As you breathe slowly and deeply, let the quiet beauty of these gifts settle softly in your mind. Imagine the shimmer of gold, the scent of spices, and the quiet touch of silk, each a thread weaving the story of this royal union. Now, relax fully and drift gently into sleep, wrapped in the gentle embrace of history's tokens. The grand halls of the palace hum with a quiet energy as diplomats and nobles gather, their voices low and measured. You find yourself amidst these figures, draped in luxurious fabrics of deep jewel tones, their faces composed but eyes sharp with understanding. In Renaissance Europe, a royal wedding was never just a celebration of love or family. It was a carefully orchestrated dance of power and politics, a delicate moment where kingdoms shifted, alliances formed, and futures were negotiated in whispers and glances. The bride's marriage to the groom represents far more than their personal union. It is a binding pact between nations, a promise of peace or the strengthening of military bonds. Envoys from distant courts come bearing gifts and messages, their presence a reminder that every detail, from the colour of the bride's gown to the seating arrangements at the feast, carries diplomatic weight. As you observe, the ambassadors engage in quiet conversations, discussing treaties veiled in courteous language. The wedding serves as a stage where subtle power plays unfold beneath the veneer of celebration. It is a moment when the future of realms is as much a topic as the beauty of the bride's embroidered train. The couple themselves are aware of this intricate web. Their union is a symbol, a living embodiment of promises made and trust sought across borders. Each smile exchanged with a foreign dignitary is laden with hope and calculation. Outside the palace, the banners of allied nations flutter side by side, their colours a silent testimony to this new chapter. The peaceful glimmer of twilight settles over the city, its streets alive with quiet festivity and anticipation. Now, as you settle into your calm space, imagine the soft murmur of diplomatic voices, the subtle glances, and the layered meanings woven into every gesture. Let the quiet complexity of this royal wedding's politics wrap around you like a gentle cloak. Breathe deeply and slowly, letting your thoughts drift softly as you sink into restful sleep, carried by the calm cadence of history's delicate balance. The palace settles into a hushed calm as night deepens, the flickering candlelight casting soft shadows on the tapestries and wooden beams of the bridal chamber. The scent of lavender and rose fills the air, mingling with the faint aroma of beeswax from the candles that flicker gently by the windows. You find yourself beside the bride as she prepares for the wedding night, a moment wrapped in both anticipation and ancient ritual, steeped in custom and quiet symbolism. In the 1500s, the wedding night was far more than a private union. It was a public expectation laden with tradition. The couple's chamber would often be adorned with flowers, herbs, and fine linens, chosen not only for beauty but for their supposed powers to bring fertility and ward off evil spirits. The bride's attendants leave the room with whispered blessings and cautious smiles, understanding the gravity of the night ahead. The door closes softly, leaving the couple to the intimacy and mystery of their new life together. In some courts, it was customary for witnesses or close attendants to remain nearby, ready to ensure that the marriage was consummated, a ritual as much about proof and legitimacy as about love. These customs reflect the period's intense focus on lineage and inheritance. Yet beneath the formality and expectation, you imagine the couple, two young souls navigating a path both familiar and unknown. Their hands may tremble, their eyes meet in search of reassurance, and in the quiet darkness, a fragile tenderness begins to grow. The world beyond their chamber fades into stillness. The night carries a softness, a slow heartbeat that matches your own, as dreams and hopes settle gently in the quiet. Now, as you breathe slowly and deeply, let the calm intimacy of this moment fill your mind. Imagine the soft linens, the scent of flowers, and the delicate unfolding of something new. Allow yourself to drift peacefully into sleep, cradled by the quiet mystery of history's tender night. The soft light of dawn filters gently through the delicate curtains, casting a pale glow across the bridal chamber. The air is cool and fragrant with the scent of fresh linen and blooming jasmine carried in from the palace gardens. You lie beside the bride as she awakens to the quiet promise of a new day. In the 1500s, the morning after the wedding held its own unique significance. It was a moment for private reflection, yet it was also a part of the ceremony, the public acknowledgement that the couple had spent their first night together. Delicate trays bearing morning gifts, small tokens of affection and prosperity, are brought quietly to the chamber. These offerings often included sweetmeats, fresh flowers, and sometimes jewellery or embroidered cloth, each symbolising wishes for fertility, happiness, and the strength of their union. The bride unwraps a small, intricately embroidered handkerchief, its fine stitches a silent message of care and devotion. She breathes in the soft fragrance of fresh herbs and feels the weight of both the past and the future pressing lightly upon her heart. Outside, servants and courtiers move with quiet efficiency, preparing for the day's events, a continuation of celebrations, visits, and formal greetings. The city beyond the palace walls stirs slowly, bathed in the gentle hues of morning. You sense the bride's thoughts drifting between moments of excitement and uncertainty, a fragile balance of hope and responsibility. The morning gifts are more than mere objects. They are promises woven into fabric and scent, tokens of a life yet to be lived. As you breathe deeply, let the peaceful light of morning wash over you. Feel the gentle warmth of new beginnings and the soft unfolding of time's tender embrace. Relax fully and drift gently into restful sleep, cradled by the serene quiet of history's dawn. The soft morning light filters through the grand windows of the palace, bathing the halls in a gentle golden glow. You find yourself among the gathered nobles and courtiers, their quiet murmurs blending with the distant sounds of footsteps and soft rustling of silk. The atmosphere is filled with a sense of calm anticipation. Today, the bride will be presented to the court for the first time as the new member of the royal family. This moment is both a ceremony and a symbol, a public unveiling of the union that was sealed behind closed doors. You watch as the bride steps forward, her gown shimmering softly in the light, embroidered with threads of silver and pearl that catch every subtle movement. Her posture is graceful, yet there is a delicate vulnerability in her eyes, a mixture of nerves and quiet resolve. As she moves through the room, the eyes of the court rest upon her, some filled with admiration, others with polite curiosity. The presentation is carefully choreographed. Every step, every glance is measured, a dance of diplomacy and tradition. Behind her, attendants carry a richly embroidered train, its length a testament to status and elegance, trailing softly on the polished floor. The scent of fresh flowers and fine perfume surrounds her, adding to the atmosphere of refined beauty. This presentation is more than a formality. It is a moment that introduces the bride not just as a wife, but as a symbol of alliance and continuity. The court acknowledges her new place with nods, murmured blessings, and the soft clinking of goblets raised in silent toast. Outside, the gardens bask in morning light, their quiet blooms reflecting the hopeful promise of this new chapter. The palace seems to hold its breath, suspended in the calm dignity of tradition. As you breathe slowly and deeply, let the serene grace of this moment fill you. Imagine the soft rustle of silk, the gentle smiles, and the quiet strength that lies beneath. Allow yourself to drift peacefully into sleep, wrapped in the gentle embrace of history's unfolding story. The palace hums with a quiet, steady rhythm, the subtle footsteps on polished stone, the soft rustle of finely woven fabrics, and the faint murmur of conversations held in hushed tones. Around you, the court comes alive in a dance of roles and rituals, each person a thread in the intricate tapestry of royal life. The ladies and gentlemen of the court serve as both companions and guides to the bride and groom, their presence a delicate balance of friendship, duty, and decorum. They are chosen not just for their loyalty, but for their grace, education, and ability to navigate the subtle politics of the palace. You watch as the ladies in waiting attend to the bride with gentle hands, adjusting veils, smoothing folds of fabric, and offering quiet words of reassurance. Their voices are soft, their gestures practiced and respectful. These women are her confidants, teachers, and sometimes gentle reminders of the expectation she now carries. The gentlemen, often noble knights or courtiers, serve as escorts and protectors. They offer the groom counsel and companionship, standing as witnesses to the union and as representatives of the wider realm. Their presence lends strength and dignity to the proceedings, a reminder of the weight of honour and duty. Beyond their formal roles, these members of the court share in moments of quiet camaraderie, exchanging glances, whispered jokes, or shared memories. Their presence weaves a subtle web of support, a living network that sustains the royal couple beyond the pomp of ceremony. As you breathe in the calm atmosphere, imagine the soft fabrics brushing against one another, the quiet laughter echoing softly through the palace corridors, and the gentle, steady presence of these attendants who shape the rhythms of royal life. Let this sense of quiet companionship and graceful support settle around you, comforting and steady. Breathe deeply and slowly, feeling the calm strength of the court's embrace as you drift gently toward restful sleep. The soft glow of candlelight flickers gently over a small velvet cushion, resting upon an ornate wooden table. You find yourself drawn close, watching as two delicate rings, crafted from gold and set with subtle engravings, are carefully lifted by the priest. In the 1500s, wedding rings were more than mere adornments. They carried deep symbolism, embodying the eternal nature of the couple's bond. The circular shape, endless and unbroken, spoke of infinite love and unity, a promise made not just in words but in form. The gold, warm and radiant, was chosen for its purity and enduring strength. Often, the rings were engraved with intricate patterns, family crests, or even secret messages, a quiet testament to heritage and commitment. You watch the bride and groom as they exchange these rings, their fingers trembling slightly with the weight of the moment. The rings slip onto their hands, a gentle click echoing softly in the hushed chamber. It is a simple act, yet one filled with profound meaning. Beyond personal devotion, the rings also served a public purpose. They were tokens of legitimacy and alliance, worn as visible signs of their union before the eyes of the court and the kingdom. Imagine the cool touch of the gold against the skin, the subtle glint catching the candlelight, and the soft murmur of vows surrounding this small but significant exchange. As you breathe slowly and deeply, let the calm and enduring symbolism of the wedding rings settle within you. Feel the quiet strength of promise and the gentle continuity of love pass through time. Allow yourself to drift peacefully into sleep, wrapped in the soft glow of history's eternal circle. The morning air is cool and still as the palace doors open wide, spilling soft light onto the cobblestone streets below. You stand among the gathered crowd, feeling the gentle stir of excitement and reverence that ripples through the assembled townsfolk and nobility alike. Today marks the royal couple's procession through the city, a grand display of unity, power, and celebration that links the private ceremony with the public heart of the kingdom. The streets are adorned with vibrant banners and garlands of fresh flowers, their colours bright against the muted tones of stone and timber. You watch as the bride and groom emerge, resplendent in their finest attire. The bride's gown shimmers with delicate embroidery, catching the sunlight in a subtle dance of silver and pearl. The groom wears a cloak of rich velvet, trimmed with fur and gold thread, a symbol of his status and strength. The procession moves slowly, a measured step that allows all eyes to drink in the spectacle. Trumpeters play soft fanfares, their notes floating gently over the crowd. Courtiers and guards flank the couple, their faces solemn yet proud, their armour and finery gleaming. The people lining the streets offer blessings and applause, some reaching forward with bouquets or tokens of goodwill. Children wave small flags, their faces bright with wonder. The scent of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries drifts from nearby market stalls, mingling with the fragrance of blooming roses scattered along the route. This procession is more than a parade. It is a bridge between worlds, connecting the sacred spaces of the palace with the bustling life of the city. It is a public affirmation of the marriage, a shared moment of hope and renewal for all who witness it. As you breathe deeply, imagine the soft murmur of the crowd, the gentle warmth of the sun, and the steady rhythm of footsteps on ancient stones. Let the peaceful grandeur of this procession carry you gently toward rest, relax fully, and drift softly into sleep, cradled by the calm pulse of history's enduring celebration. The days and months that follow a royal wedding ripple quietly outward, like gentle waves spreading across a still lake. The celebration may fade, but its legacy lingers in the hearts of those who witnessed it, and in the very fabric of the realm itself. You find yourself in a peaceful garden, bathed in the soft glow of dusk. The air is warm and fragrant, alive with the subtle hum of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves. Here, history seems to settle, the moments of joy, hope, and solemn duty blending into a lasting memory. Royal weddings of the 1500s were not just events, but turning points. They shaped alliances, shifted power, and forged futures. Their rituals, sometimes strange, often beautiful, carried meanings that reached far beyond the immediate moment. You imagine the young couple, now partners not only in love but in governance and legacy, walking together through years marked by challenges and triumphs. Their marriage stands as a symbol of unity, a foundation upon which kingdoms could build peace or wage war. Even now, centuries later, the echoes of those ceremonies ripple softly in the stories we tell and the traditions we honour. The embroidery of gowns, the weight of rings, the dance of diplomacy, all remind us of the delicate balance between personal bonds and political power. As you breathe slowly and deeply, feel the calm certainty of history's gentle embrace. Let the legacy of these royal weddings settle within you, a quiet reminder of connection, continuity, and the passage of time. Now, as your breath grows soft and steady, allow yourself to drift fully into peaceful sleep, carried on the tranquil tide of history's enduring story. Thank you for sharing this journey through the past with me tonight. May your dreams be as calm and rich as the stories of old. As the quiet night settles around you, the stories of a distant time drift softly away, leaving a calm stillness in their wake. The echoes of royal halls, the shimmer of silk, and the whispered promises of long ago now rest gently in your mind, like a lullaby sung by history itself. May you find peace in the gentle rhythm of these ancient tales, and may your dreams be filled with soft light and quiet wonder. Sleep well, wrapped in the calm embrace of time and memory. Good night, and may tomorrow greet you with gentle warmth and new hope.